So the strategic use of IT and the internet has moved to the most difficult area, the relationships with various players in one's business ecosystem. Banks, advertising agencies, suppliers, distributors, retailers, and even competitors. These relationships often have accompanying linking information systems. What this basically means is that one single company may have an intricate number of connections to other players that are suppliers, non-competitors in a different industry, or even competitors within an industry. The airline industry is a prime example. If you're on a flight and you miss your flight, the airline's reservation system is connected to other airlines to see what flight they can get you on. So you have to see whether or not there's availability, where the flight is going. Is it direct? Is it not direct? And that was much more difficult prior to any type of information system because people would literally have to call the carrier to see what was available, what was flying out. The type of integration can be bucketed into three segments: loosely defined, close, and tight. Loosely defined basically says when two suppliers or two companies or two co-suppliers want to work together, they basically just state the requirement and then work together at that time. There's no set way of doing it. So this has little risk. It's something that both companies need, they desire, and they set a process to do it. A close relationship is when two parties exchange information in a more formal manner. So you see this a little bit more in, say, health insurance, where two health insurance companies might actually have a closer integration because they're looking for fraud. Banks will have a tighter integration, which is where they share more than one business process with each other, so that they can actually, conduct electronic funds transactions. They can execute at a much more rapid pace, selling their stocks or selling whatever types of financial tools that they have. The movement of capital is what's important, so you see many business processes that are tightly integrated with other systems. The integration pyramid, which your book has, is basically shows the tight, close, and loose, the number of relationships, what the benefit is, what the risks are. Obviously, the tighter you have a relationship, the more risk it is, but there may be more of a potential benefit. And the looser it is, there's less risk, but you don't get as much benefit as you might with a tighter relationship. So most, if not all, B2B systems integrate with existing back-end systems. And by buying applications like PeopleSoft or WebSphere or some of the other larger applications that have been written by the software development companies, those are generally easier to integrate because they've already built those integration mechanisms into their software. When you have too many platforms, it becomes very difficult, especially when they're using too many different data sets. They become incompatible, which is why things like EDI as a standard between health insurance for health insurance claims is important. Every provider, every hospital will send their claims in an EDI format to any insurance company, and the insurance company talks back to the hospitals and providers using the same EDI data format. Those types of standards they make the transaction easier. The SEC has regulated that all financial reporting to the SEC occur in a format called XRBL, the Extensible Business Reporting Language, XBRL. Those types of things really do facilitate faster integration. These newer systems have these things built in. You see sometimes companies setting up, as I mentioned earlier, an extranet. The extranet is where two companies set up a virtual private network between them. So it looks like it's an internal secured network, but it's really just an encrypted transmission between the two companies over a public network. Ultimately, the goal is to extend what the company's back-end processes are to another company's back-end process are for the purposes of facilitating transactions. So we have the two models that we focused on, B2C and B2B. Those are your two primary models. You can basically have about 70% of the entire market. But there are other models in terms of how these transactions occur. C2C is consumer to consumer. You see things like eBay and Craigslist. Now, while there are businesses that actually do stuff on eBay, we're talking about the people who are selling the one particular item, just trying to get it off their hands and get it into someone else's hands. The business to government, the whole procurement process between businesses and government is completely different than it is between business to business. There are much more rules, there's much more standards, there are much more reporting requirements. Usually you have multiple bids, and the bids have to be in a certain format. That is a different process. So B2G is itself its own model. And then finally, G2C. The government has a model with its own citizens for the purposes of executing transactions that they normally do, like Department of Motor Vehicle or taxation collection. Other strategic issues for these models, again, I keep referring to as social media and mobile technologies, because those are the two big ones for today. For some of you who are in the healthcare industry, obviously there are regulatory and other incentives or initiatives that are out there that are more strategic for your organizations because you're trying to get some money from the federal government or because you're trying to reduce uh, hospital readmissions and so forth. So there are different things for different industries, but these two would just be across all industries, maybe with very few exceptions. So the conclusion is, over the years, a few innovative companies have used IT for a strategic advantage. They're models, but many companies don't have the resources to do what they do or follow the example. So with the growth of the internet and development of e-business, IT has become a strategic tool in every industry. But again, you have to make the argument of what do you define as strategic, and is it really just another tool? Again, that's a little bit more of a preference in how you interpret strategy. Looking for cohesion of often dispersed employees, intranets, and portals. Basically, if you have employees that are in multiple silos or in multiple sub-organizations, they sometimes tend to work in a silo. By integrating them with technology, you have things like group decision support systems, which will allow those employees to collaborate and work together. And this is another area where social media is actually being used, and knowledge bases such as wikis are being used, because now employees within the organizations who may never have spoken to each other can still share information, which could be vital to the company or vital to the bottom line. Increasingly, there is a customer-centric view that is pervasive now within IT. And in many IT organizations, they will talk about the customer, both an internal customer and an external customer. And so as IT evolves, its strategic use evolves as well. And over the next few chapters, we're going to see different ways of how technology is used to either employ the strategy, or if you don't agree that it is a strategy, to at least employ those tactics. So we'll see you for Module 4.